Today we introduced legislation to the Scottish Parliament setting the rules that would govern an independence referendum. We want to give people the choice of an independent future rather than having a Brexit.
Here we go again. Explain to me what choice would have presented itself for all to see if Article 50 was revoked, or is revoked, something you're still campaigning for currently. Explain to me what choice regarding our independence would have come to the forefront if a people's vote was brought to the people in the UK. Still could happen, there's still time. You're still campaigning for that one too. Two things that eradicate the mandate that says that we could have an independence referendum in the event of being dragged out of the European Union against our will, etc, etc. It's a very strange set of events. It's a very strange course of action for a party to take who proclaim to want independence for Scotland, when it seems to me that they've spent more time campaigning for things that would eradicate the one little right that they have to call upon a referendum in the future regarding independence. How many times have they been on the TV and they've been questioned about things such as, if Brexit was reversed, what would you do about independence? Would you still campaign for it? And they squirm and they don't know what to do. They malfunction to a degree and somewhat change the subject or love to repeat the fact that we've got a mandate. That mandate. In 2021, the general election comes round, and of course, even if Sturgeon wants to get in, it doesn't matter. She would no longer have a mandate. Hence the shit. This is exactly why you're seeing this. Nothing to do with Scotland having a choice, because it's all very well and good to say things like that now, but 6-7 months ago I wasn't hearing that. It was people's vote this, people's vote that. What's changed, Sturgeon? even the timing of when she wants to call upon this referendum. Just at the end of next year, she's given it some intense thought. Nothing to do with the fact the general election's the year after. Pull the other one.
Last Thursday, Scotland said loudly and clearly that it is a European nation and it intends to remain one. It also rejected all attempts to deflect that argument with spurious assertions about other matters and showed its contempt for equivocation. Elections can be brutal judgments on parties and politicians.
Just like the one was in 2017 when he's lost a third of your seats. And that was an election that was of importance. Nothing like the meaningless EU elections that really do mean nothing. And with a piss-poor turnout of 39% in Scotland, I wouldn't exactly say it's much to scream to the rooftops about. Especially when the SNP told people that happen to be what would be considered unionists in Scotland that a vote for the SNP in the upcoming election was not a vote for independence. 12 hours of referendum result coming out, and what are they going to do? They proclaim that the surge of support that they managed to obtain strengthened their case for independence. I mean that takes some front. That takes a real front.
Has nothing happened to resolve the Brexit impasse, but now the stalemate looks like lasting for several more months, whilst ever more extreme Tory MPs vie with each other to present the most hardline positions to their party faithful.
Oh, and with all that, extensions in time being wasted. One becomes closer and closer, and that's the concern.
The Tories are heading for a no-deal Brexit.
Which ordinarily you would think would be right up the SNP's alleyway, surely. Would it not be? But yet, they still continue to vote, campaign for things that eradicate the mandate in question. But second of all, I'm pretty sure that a no-deal Brexit would never see the light of day in terms of Parliament. I'm sure that would be voted out. That's at least what they're claiming on all the punditry channels and so on. I'm not entirely sure on that front, so I'm not going to elaborate much further. But it does.
And some positively welcome that disastrous direction of travel. A Boris Johnson premiership is no longer a bad joke, it's a frightening possibility. Substitute Rubb or Lidsom or Gove or Hancock or McVeigh or any of the others for Johnson, and the situation is no better. Most are heading with pleasure to the cliff edge.
Sturgeon clearly wrote this.
But Scotland must not be forced against our will to go with them. So let me at the outset make one thing very clear to the Tories at Westminster and to the Tories in this chamber. The SNP manifesto on which we won the Holyrood election in 2016 and on which this government is founded said the Scottish Parliament should have the right to hold another referendum if there is a significant and material change in the circumstances that prevailed in 2014, such as Scotland being taken out of the EU against our will.
And we haven't been taken out of the EU against our will. Therefore, this is pointless. Completely and utterly pointless. There you have it.
Any deal which takes Scotland out of the EU against the wishes of the majority of people in Scotland has that effect. That is what people voted for.
Yeah, and the people voted Scotland in 2016 for a multitude of different reasons. You know, it's very strange how that never gets a mention when you stand there and speak to no end about the perils of an overwhelming majority vote being ignored and thwarted. Very strange.
When they voted the SNP into government. And if a new Tory Prime Minister attempts a no-deal Brexit, whilst we will do everything possible to stop it and everything we can to mitigate it, it will yet be further proof that the conditions set out in our manifesto in April 2016 have been met in full. And there will be an even greater urgency to give Scotland a choice of a different future. The Scottish Government and the SNP at Westminster will, of course, continue to do all we can to stop Brexit for the whole of the UK. And there will be an even greater urgency to give Scotland a choice of a different future. The Scottish Government and the SNP at Westminster will, of course, continue to do all we can for the whole of the UK.
Now, why would they do that if independence was truly what they wanted? How is this the actions of a party that wants independence and nothing else for Scotland? You can't sit there with a straight face and tell me that that guy believes the shit he's reading right now that Sturgeon's clearly typed up for him to read out. I mean, how can they sit there with a straight face themselves and proclaim to the world that they want independence, but yet in the next breath openly state that they're campaigning still to stop Brexit? What planet do you have to be on to see how the two are compatible in any way? They're fucking not.
In particular, we will continue to support a second referendum on EU membership, a position which received widespread support on Thursday.
That's fantastic. And then you do that, and then if the referendum goes the way that you want it to go, then what? The mandate, no more. That doesn't bother Sturgeon, of course, because this isn't about independence for her. But to the untrained masses, if you will, they think it is. And that's where I have a bit of an issue with this.
Time is running out.
Time's running out. Yeah.
The third anniversary of the Brexit referendum will be with us in less than a month's time. The accelerating shambles has caused and is causing real damage to Scotland's economy and to our social fabric. The assumption that a UK government and a UK parliament would or could in any way do better for Scotland than our own independent institutions has been finally and completely destroyed. Presiding Officer, there must be, and there is, a better way forward. That is, in our view, for Scotland to become an independent European nation.
That's unbelievable how he says that with a straight face. Unfucking believable.
That way forward, we must try and build as much consensus as we can. Of course, should circumstances change, we would have the option of seeking Parliament's agreement to proceed on an accelerated timetable.
And if they don't change, then anything regarding giving people a choice in the future falls at the wayside.
First Minister announced her intention to take forward this bill on the 24th of April, but she was so stealthy about this that she sent a card to every single household in Scotland, every single one, which said, "We'll offer people a choice of a future for Scotland as an independent European nation." How stealthy is that? A stealth referendum. I have to say,
I'd say the stealth came into it when Sturgeon quite clearly stated that a vote in the up-and-coming referendum to leave the European Union would mean that the premise for independence doesn't arise. And then, of course, using the surge in SNP support that she'd garnered from previous elections, she managed to manipulate the vote to go the way that she wanted it to go. But yet, she's been somewhat silent when she speaks of the overwhelming majority that voted to remain in the European Union, and she got exposed for election rolled round a year later. That was the stealthy element of it. Not to mention, of course, she then proclaimed that she was putting independence on the back burner until negotiations regarding Brexit had come to a close, which justified 2 years of silence on the matter, and patiently people waited for independence, confused as to why it was never being called upon. And in that 2 year time frame, she's done nothing other than campaign for things very vigorously at times that would eradicate the mandates. And on that card she's holding before you there, it quite clearly stated on that card, as I've read out a few times on this channel, Brexit, they wanted a people's vote, and they wanted to revoke Article 50 as well as promising an independent choice. Of course, they would never be able to offer you that choice, because the mandate in order to be able to grant you that choice would be eradicated if the two previous promises, one of the two promises, was brought to the table and acted upon.
The reality of the situation is that whatever happens, that is what is the block on progress in Scotland. Now, there's an opportunity here to say, how could we move forward?
They're inner communists or socially just. This is what we've got forward to upon re-entering the European Union, a socially just and fair society, because it was so unfair and full of rampant inequalities before Helmet Head, the fucking feminist, took over with her intersectional merry band of feminists to join the queue of pandering and implementing diversity and intersectionality to completely render our country obsolete in terms of what it once was, in favour of some modernised version. Is that really the progress that we are referring to in this regard? Because their obsession with humanitarian views and climate change, quote unquote, are causes for concern for anybody that isn't brainwashed into their way of seeing the world. Socially just Scotland. Get fucked, mate. Get absolute fucked.
But I have to say,
I have disagreements of why it's required in the first place, because before Sturgeon came into power, there was never a requirement for any of these things, and the things that they proclaim need to be solved immediately were never issues.
Of the last 50, 60, 70 years is on my side, because the evidence shows that it cannot be done through the United Kingdom, but it could be and should be done through this Scottish Parliament.
The 2016 referendum was affected not only by empty promises on the side of a bus or racist rhetoric from Farage and Johnson, but also by dodgy money and dodgy data. What opportunity is there to make sure that this bill...
the guy trying to turn us into a socialist country to defeat the perils of climate change. I mean, fuck off, mate.
15th year of this government, over 1 million people in Scotland are living in poverty, with children going hungry, rough sleeping on the increase in pensioners unable to afford to heat their homes. So where does the SNP's priorities actually lie? The statement talks about consensus. When will the Scottish Government respond to the clear consensus of anti-poverty organisations calling for urgent action, make tackling poverty its priority rather than focusing yet again on the Constitution?
Michael Russell.
Yeah, I mean, I would refer the member to the UN report last week, because I think it's quite important that we deal with facts. The UN report is absolutely clear where the responsibility, alas, lies. It lies with successive Westminster governments. And I say to the members, I've said to the leader of her party here, there is a way to move on from that, to do the incredibly hard work that we're required to recreate Scotland in the way in which we would like to see it recreated, where poverty is eliminated. But that requires us to have a national consensus about putting the resources of the country to the good of the country. And we can't do that unless we have control of those resources. It is a passion that she has felt strongly. It is a passion she is right to feel strongly. Poverty shames Scotland. But the only way we will move on fully and finally from that is to make sure that all the resources, all the effort of the country is devoted to that. And that cannot be done within the current settlement.
If I'm going to bother playing any more of this video, I've had enough.